Namaskar. Welcome to the lecture Spiritual Management for Engineers and Business Administrators of Industry with special reference to COVID-19 epidemic that has become pandemic. This is the last and the concluding part of the lecture. This is Dr. A.P.Rao, Vice President, Telecom Division, High Physics Laboratory India Private Limited, MIDC Ranjangaon, Pune, Maharashtra. To recap, what have we studied in part 6 is, in the part 6 of the lecture, we have seen that if the correlation among science, philosophy and religion is understood, we understand the psychology of humans with the knowledge of parascience. And then when we analyze and practice spiritual management approach, we consider everyone as an human first and then an employee in an organization. An empowerment of this approach results in strength, confidence, clarity of goals, and dynamism for every individual in the company. And finally, we have observed continuity in parascience, spiritual science, and applied spirituality. We reach to a point where spiritual management approach is automatically understood. So now one more concept we want to understand, and that we call as the spiritual capital. So now we speak of spiritual capita after knowing parascience, spiritual science, applied spirituality, management and spiritual management. The next to talk about is the spiritual capital. The spiritual capital is the newest concept amongst the four basic forms of capital, that is material capital, financial capital, intellectual capital, social capital, and finally the spiritual capital. It is a term with various definitions, while most scholars and researchers define the spiritual capital as what makes life meaningful. When a company observes spiritual management approach, the employees feel happy to be a part of organization and enjoy working. Simply means that the company has generated spiritual capital. The spiritual capital is most important by having comparison amongst the material, financial, intellectual, or even the social capital. The spiritual capital is measured at three levels. One we call as individual level, then the organizational level, and the national level. The spiritual capital reflects what an individual or an organization exists for, believes in, aspires to, and takes responsibility for. To give a little more details about it, the organization exists because group of people working together can achieve more than the sum of achievements which the individuals in the organization could produce when working separately. The organization may believe in different cultures. For example, the clan-oriented culture, that is family-like culture with a focus on mentoring and nurturing, along with the values as reliability, commitment, open-mindedness, consistency, honesty, etc., etc. The organization's vision states what the organization appears to become in future, while mission of an organization reflects the organization's past and present by stating why the organization exists and what role it plays in society. Organizational responsibilities is context-specific organizational actions and policies that make into account stakeholders' expectations and the triple bottom line of economic, social, and environmental performance of an organization. It also pays attention to every position in organization with respect to job description, satisfaction, and role and the responsibilities. It means right from the individual level to the national level, the spiritual capital or measurement of spiritual capital has become most important to see how successful the organization is. In fact, we require to increase our intelligence, for which spiritual practices are needed to be learned under the name what we call here as spiritual management or spiritual management approach. The scientific analysis of the world intelligence has got developed very much with the help of scientific and technological advancements. In the old days, the old mechanical Newtonian mechanics was to analyze, to talk about the consciousness. In the middle time of 50s to 90s, the wave theory or the relativistic theory was the measure for how the consciousness is being developed. And as a future in the 21st century, we talk about the non-local wave theory. It means right from the mechanical Newtonian approach to the wave theory or relativistic theory and to the present non-local wave theory, we have got very much improved the consciousness. Our intelligence is not localized somewhere in our brain, but instead the brain serves as a kind of neurobiological transducer. Transducer is something that converts energy from one form to the other. This neurobiological transducer integrates and defines our experience in relationship to the higher energy and information forms in which we are already embedded beyond our normal consciousness capability. This simply indicates that we can increase our consciousness or consciousness capabilities through some means, and that means is simply the spiritual management or the spiritual management approach. So as a concluding remark of the series of the lectures from 1 to 7, we may say that for a successful management practitioner, the fundamental knowledge of science, parascience, spiritual science and their practices, to use them in terms of spiritual management practice is a must, so that one can achieve the higher goals in the life within the industry. And the most important part of spiritual management is yogic practices and meditation, through which one learns to behave calmly on the humanistic ground at every place of work in any sort of adverse condition and reaches to the most appropriate decision in that situation. Moreover, it is a special approach towards anything or everything in the company procedures. And therefore, this knowledge gained of the spiritual management approach is helpful for better environment to handle the situation, special situation like COVID-19 in the company. So finally, we recall the nature cycle drawn from emergence to merger and the correlation amongst science, philosophy and religion, and follow the spiritual management approach to become stress-free. Remember that every development of nature is useful. Sometimes we do not understand the cause. As an example, initially at the time of birth of our earth, a single-celled amoeba were developed whose life was of very short and their work was to inhale carbon dioxide and produce oxygen. They did not know what for their life is. But the nature's program was to produce oxygen breathing people and animals, and therefore those amoebas were working for many billion years. So, believe in nature, that is God or consciousness or spirituality. And therefore, in the beginning of the lecture, what we said is very true, that the spiritual science and management gets correlated where material approaches are stuck and one is required to enter the sub and super consciousness state of the brain for the sake of further development or progress where only light is there and no darkness. So we finish with a big thank you for listening the spiritual management approach for engineers and business administrators of the industry with a shloka from Vedas that says Om Purnamadaha Purnamidam Purnat Purnamudachyate Purnasya Purnamadaya Purnameva Vashishyate. That means it appears you can take as much as you want from the nature and still you will be left with as much. Thank you very much. If you have any questions with respect to the all segments from 1 to 7, you may contact on the given mail address and I shall be satisfying your queries. So thank you very much.